In chapter 4-8, we're going to look at the imaginary unit and complex numbers. And let's first start with taking notes right here. So go ahead and pause the video and write this down. All right, the imaginary unit, which is denoted with the letter I, is the complex number whose square is -1. And we all know there's not one real number when you square it that you can get -1, because 1 times 1 is +1, -1 times -1 is still +1, and there's no real number that you could square to ever get a -1. So they've defined an imaginary number whose square is -1. So you can think of it as this: I squared equals -1. Or you can also think about it, if you take the square root of both sides, just a simple I equals the square root of -1. And this is an imaginary number right here. Anytime you see the square root of -1, you know you have an I. So let's take a look at how to simplify radical expressions containing negative numbers. So the first thing, let's review how to actually simplify a square root. When you simplify a square root, you're looking for a single number that when multiplied by itself gives you the number under the square root. And we do that by factoring and looking for groups of 2. So I factored the number 4 here, and I have 2 times 2. I have one group of 2, so I pull a 2 out, and I have nothing left. So the square root of 4 equals 2. How do you factor a number that has a negative under the radical? So the first thing you're going to do is you're going to split that number up and multiply it by -1 times the positive version. Then when you factor, you're going to notice that you have the square root of -1, and you're immediately going to pull out your imaginary number out of your square root, and you'll be left with the square root of a positive number. All you need to do then is to simplify the square root, which we've already done over here in this example. So the square root of 4 is 2, so our answer here is 2i. So let's go ahead and do the same thing for this example here. The square root of -18, we are going to rewrite as the square root of -1 times +18. We notice that we have the square root of -1 under a radical, so we are going to pull out an I, and we're going to be left with the square root of 18. Now let's go through the process of factoring 18, and we get 9 times 2, and then 9 can be factored into 3 times 3. And remember, with a square root, we're looking for groups of 2. We have one group of 2, and we have 2 left over. So we'll pull one of those 3's out from under our square root. We write our I next to it. We can't forget our I, and we end up with the square root of 2. One last example, just to go over it one more time. Start with factoring out that -1 when you see it under the radical, so it's -1 times 72. We're going to pull out our imaginary unit, our I, and we're left with the square root of 72. And here we go. Let's factor that. It's 9 times 8. 9 can be factored into 3 times 3. 8 can be factored into 2 times 2 times 2. We have a group of 2 here and a group of 2 here. We have one that's not in a group, so that'll remain under a radical. So we'll pull 1 3 out and 1 2 out, which makes 6. So the answer is 6i radical 2.